Hello, this is a demonstration of numerical calculations statistics for the AQA S1 syllabus, and I'm going to use the June 2011 question as an example. In these questions, they're basically getting you to carry out the calculations for the mean, the mode, the median, the interquartiles and the range, and they may ask you for standard deviation as well. We'll start off with the simple ones, and then a bit later on in this question we can get onto using the calculator, which I would recommend. So as ever, let's start off by reading the question. 1. The number of matches in each of a sample of 85 boxes is summarised below. Well, let's be clear, this is something we've seen in GCSE before, in year 11 and 10, and what we've got here is a frequency table. Yeah, and we will regularly see questions where they've got a range here. So like there, range of a number of matches between 239 and 243. And as in GCSE, later on we have to find the middle of that range to use. So in this case that would be 241. And then we've got the number of boxes within that range, in this case 1. And that's just repeated all the way down. So let's have a look and see what the question asks us for. First up, for these data, state the modal value. Okay, modal value is the most frequent. So we're looking for the range with the highest number of boxes in it. So we're looking in the second column for the number of boxes, and the highest value is 20. Okay, so the modal value is the number of matches that most frequently occurs in the boxes. And in this case, our modal value therefore is going to be 253. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Let's look at the second question, B. B is a 2. Determine the values of the median and the interquartile range. Okay, so let's remember how we do this. To find the range, to find the median, the interquartile range, we need to look at the total number in the sample. Here in our population or sample here is 85, and we need to find the middle one. So let's draw ourselves a line to help us here. We need to find the middle one, that's going to give us our median, the middle of the 85, and then we're going to have our interquartile ranges, so they're going to be our quartile points. We need to find as well, don't we? We need to find our lower quartile and our upper quartile. So let's start off. So the first thing I'm going to do is look for the median. So the median here, we know we've got 85. I'm going to split that into 2, divide by 2 is going to give us 42.5. This is an odd number here, so we're going to go up 1. So our median number is going to be number 43. Yeah, so that means 42 is just below and 44 just above. And we're going all the way then from number 1 at the bottom to number 85 at the top. So let's find our lower quartile number. So we've got our 42 below. We're going to halve that. So actually we're going to get a number here. If we halve it, we'd have got 21. So we've got 21. We'll be just above it, and 20 will be just below it, because we need to have 21 numbers above it, 21 below. So there's our 21, there's another 21, here's going to be another 21, here's going to be another 21. So here's how it breaks down. So that lower quartile is going to be halfway between 20 and 21. That's effectively going to be at the 20.5 position, and this one here is going to be somewhere just between the 64 and the 63. Coming to, so say 85 coming down 21, and so that one is going to be at, sorry, that should be between 64. It's going to be our upper quartile. It's going to be between our 64 and 65. So it's going to be at 64.5. Okay, so we now know how far we're coming up and down the frequency table. And let's go back and start doing our calculations. So we need to find those by putting these in order, cumulative order. So we've got one. So in the first box we've got the first one. In the second box we've got the second. By the time we reach the end of the third box here, we're up to 4. Then we're up to 7. Then we're up to 11. Then we're up to 17. We're up to 27. Add another 13. We're up to 40. 40th. Then we're up to 56. Then we're up to 76. 81. 84, and finally 85. Okay, so that's our cumulatives. We're interested in the lower quartile will be at 20.5. So 20.5 going to fall in this group here. So it's more than 17, less than the 27, so that's our 20.5. So that's going to be our lower quartile, is therefore going to be in this range here. Upper quartile, median, let's look for the median next. Our median is the 43rd. So 43rd is going to fall in this range. That's our 43rd. Oops. Some of things moving themselves. So that's going to be 43rd, 43. There we go. So that falls within this range. So that's where the median's going to be. Median is there in the 252. And then our next one, we need to be at 64.5. And 64.5 is going to fall within this range here because it's greater than 56 and lower than 76. So that is also, that's going to be our upper quartile, is going to be 253. So let's go back and see what question asked us again. So the first question it asked us is, what is the median? Well, we worked that out. The median number of matches in a box is 252, and our interquartile range is the upper minus the lower. So that is upper minus lower, and we had here 253 was our upper value and 250 was our lower value. So therefore the interquartile range is 3. So that's pretty straightforward, and that got us 4 marks, and we can do all of that without the calculator. We could repeat some of that onto the calculator, and we'll look at that a bit later on. Okay, now let's come on to the second part of the question. Okay, so part B of the question asks us for the following. Given that on investigation the two extreme values, the above table, are 227 and 271, calculate the range. Well, that's a pretty straightforward one, in that we know the range is the maximum minus the min value, max minus min. It gives us the range. Upper versus minus lower, be another way you might want to look at it, minus lower. So here is 271 minus 227, so the range is simply 44. Okay, and now let's get on to the final fun bit. So we've got 1 mark for that. Calculate estimates of the mean and standard deviation. So why are they asking us for estimates? Because it's an estimates here because some of the data is in a range. It's not actually given for a specific value of matches, it's in a range of matches. data in range. So if you are asked that question, why is it an estimate? It's because they're not all points. Data there in range data. Okay, so what do we have to do in order to solve this? Let's go back up to the table and start work. So the first thing we need to do is to put values and mid values on each of these on the ranges, and then we'll work our way down. So let's look at this first one, less than 239. Well, we'd have a real problem with that, placing it, because that's in a very wide range. That could be between 0 and 239, but they actually just told us in the question, so you better check the question for one of these, is that the lower value is 227, and there's only one of those values less than 239, so that must be 227. Next one, our range is 239 to 243, so we need to find the midpoint of that. The best way is to find an average of those two numbers, and that's going to come out 241. 244 to 246, well, that's going to come out, we need to find an average of those 2 points to the midpoint, and that's going to come out 245. And then we're going to have then we get, life gets easy, 247, 248, 249, 250, 251, 252, 253, let's go on down, excuse me, move down there, 254. Here we've got a range again, we need to find the midpoint, so we average those two and we're going to get 257. And finally we've got our more than 259. Again, that would cause us a real problem if they hadn't told us that the extreme value is 271. So there's our 271. Okay, what are we going to do with this data? Well, best way to deal with this and most reliable way is to put it in our calculator. So I'll just get the emulator up on the screen. So what I've done here is put the data in. So in the first column here we've got our mid-range points. There we go. So our column with 227. And in our second column we've got the frequency data. We just plug those in there. Now you need to check at the set if it's not your calculator list. So you want the X list, the value list, to be in list 1, and you see there, so that's on a 1 variable, because we've only got 1 variable here we're dealing with, haven't we? The number of matches. And the second one is you need to tell the calculator where the frequency is coming from. So you need to make sure that that second row is the freq is against list 2, so that the calculator knows what it's doing. If not, you're going to get the wrong answer. Okay, so here we are. We've got that 2 sets of data in, and we've got 1 variable set up. We know we only got 1 variable in this case, so we're going to click the 1 variable button, and here we are. It's going to give us the information that we're looking for. So the first thing that we need for this question is the mean, and that's the X bar on our calculator. So on this one, let's just whiz down. So our mean is the X bar is 251.2. That's right, isn't it? I've copied it over correctly. Good. And the second piece of information they asked us for was the standard deviation. Now, in this calculator, we're looking for standard deviation is described by the term sigma. Yeah, here they've got an X sigma. So I want to pick that one, and you'll see there's 2 versions of it, the n and the n minus 1. Well, standard deviation is sigma n, and so you'd be putting that one down. That would be the 4.217 sigma. 4.217. On other calculators, you may find that there's an S figure as well, which is the equivalent here of that sigma to the n minus 1. So that's a calculation where rather than dividing to find the variance dividing by n, they've divided by n minus 1. That give you what's known as the unbiased estimator of the standard deviation. But here they've asked you for standard deviation, and you just want to stick to the basics and do that. So there we are. Here's just a very quick summary at the end then for what we've done. For numerical statistics, my advice would be to use the calculator. You know, you're looking at one variable setup. Make sure that list 2 is set as your frequency in the set sheet, otherwise you will get the wrong answer. So it's always worth checking that. If it's your own calculator, it should be set up that way. It will calculate for you the mean, the standard deviation, the mode, the median, the interquartile range. I didn't show you the mean mode, so mode, median, interquartile range. So let's have a quick look at that. So we're going in one variable calculation. So what's what we looked at earlier, mean and standard deviation sigma. But here you can see there's an X mins in there. Your Q1, which is your lower quartile, 250, your median of 252, your Q3, which is your upper quartile, 253, and your max of 271, and it's also told you what your mode is. So everything's there. If you've done it manually in the first half, you can go back and check it and make sure every number is correct, and that'll save you marks overall. So please do give it a go. It's always worth spending time checking. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope that's useful to you.